Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and I'm excited for today's show because it's something that's super relevant to my life and to a lot of people right now. And because I get to have a conversation with my friend Sophie Mihalko. Yes, or Sophie Michele. And many of you know her because she's been on the radio with me many times. And today's conversation is about conscious breakup. And many people have the belief that breaking up is hard to do. And in fact, that's been our experience, a lot of our experience. And not only with romantic relationships, but a business partnership or even a friendship can be really challenging because that person's been a rock in your life. And in some way, you love them, or at least you had loved them. And so the dynamics, the interpersonal dynamics that arise, and then the emotions that come that sometimes even seem uncontrollable are can be really challenging. So welcome to the show, Sophie. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Hi, Kathy. I'm so excited to be here. I don't think we've done a show together since the pandemic started, did we?
We did
I don't
one,
think we
I
have.
think.
One.
We did one on it was maybe shame or something. Forgiveness?
Okay.
Forgiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's
Awesome.
been a
Awesome. Well,
while.
yeah, it's been a while. So I'm excited to be here. Hello to all your listeners. And oh my gosh, this is I'm really glad you asked me to participate because I have such a good experience with conscious breakup. So I'm excited to talk about that. Yeah.
Yay. Okay. As someone who spent the whole afternoon yesterday filling out divorce paperwork, the show
Mhm.
is like, oh, okay, we get to talk about this. And I've been sort of as the instigator. Yeah, there's so many mixed emotions that happen in a breakup. You have the sense of and space, and then you have the sense of maybe guilt, or even sometimes
Mhm.
worry, or
Mhm.
loneliness, or like all of these different things kind of come out of the package. It's like, oh
Yeah.
wow. And I know you've been through your own divorce as well, so I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'd love to talk about two things that you mentioned, but the first one I think is the most important one, and that's the love part. Um, we actually never stop loving people. Once we start loving somebody, I don't think, especially if you're having a lot of anger and a lot of hurt with one person, that actually is also an expression of love, even though it's not rosy and it's not great. It's still an expression of love. So I really want to I really want to tell people, you don't stop loving. So don't start with saying I don't love them anymore, because that's going to be more hurtful to you than to them. And okay, I also want to include in this conversation, so I personally just lost somebody. A very dear friend of mine passed away on Christmas Eve, and the loss that I felt was very similar to a breakup, but because of all the tools that I have, I realized his love for me is still here. So I don't
Mhm.
have to stop loving him because he's not on this, in this body right now. So that's, for me, that's number one. Don't fool yourself. There's still a lot of love. And if you acknowledge the love, you you'll be able to get behind the hurt, because it is because you love somebody that you're hurting. And it is really, really good to acknowledge that. Don't, like you said, just let the emotions come up. It's difficult, it's challenging, but it's going to be so rewarding to just be present with whatever it is you're feeling. Don't start judging it. It's what it is. If it's relief, if it's, I remember when my ex-husband told me he didn't want to be married anymore, there was relief. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to pretend. Like there was a piece of relief. So just use that use that relief. Don't judge it. Don't judge any of it. Really be present with it.
Well, and I think, that brings us to back to the title of the show, which is Conscious Breakup. And when we're judging something, how can we truly be present or conscious with it? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah. I like that you mentioned, be present with whatever is coming up, your emotions. I think a lot of times growing up, or even in systems of higher consciousness, we're taught to invalidate the emotion. Like,
Hmm.
oh, you're free of that person, so you shouldn't be upset. Or, instead of like, oh yeah, yeah, that upset is there. That upset is real. Like, no reason to make it wrong or try to make it go away. And what if you could actually, I read Thich Nhat Hanh. I was reading a book that I randomly had this book. I didn't purchase it, but it was about anger. And I said, okay, it's here. I'm gonna read it. And one of the very first things he said was, imagine that you're a parent for that anger. And so you're
Yeah.
here and you're allowing it to be, and these are not his words anymore, but like, you're the kindness for you and for whatever's arising, kindness toward that anger. And that's almost what allows it. We're not trying to make it dissipate, but it's
Yeah.
what allows it to sort of take its own course and dissipate.
Yeah. 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 Just be present. Okay, so that's the one thing was love. I mean, love is this wonderful thing that just keeps going and it doesn't stop. The other thing, I can't remember what it is you mentioned. Okay, well, it will come back to me. It was good. It will come back to me.
We talked about, yeah,
So
conscious, not judging it.
I wonder in right now, because you're in the middle of it, what do you feel is the most difficult part that prevents you from having a conscious breakup?
That's a great question. I think that there have been a lot of different emotions and desires and things like that. And as I was filling out this paperwork, oh, I recognized the desire in me to not look at this stuff, right? Not look at, I mean, particularly asset division, right? I've been in this relationship for 16 years. So there's not only a lot of history of our experiences together, but also our combined assets and investments and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I deliberately, one of my clients looked into something for me. She said, Kathy, I found out how you could, offer your courses through this venue. And I said, please don't send it to me, because I will distract myself by looking at that and going in that direction instead of
Yeah.
being with like the uncomfortableness of having to sift through this and see what I think, is reasonable and equitable. But also, I think the main thing that has been a challenge for me is like finding the support, the people who know what I need to know,
Yeah.
like the law help, or um the accountant's been great once I found her, but those supportive people who know
Right.
more in this arena than I do. I'm
Yeah.
a newbie.
Yeah. So I'm glad you bring this up. There's a distinction to be made in conscious breakup. There's us dealing with the breakup emotionally, spiritually, physically, and then there is the consequences, the results of that breakup. I like do not be it's not because you want a conscious breakup, but that you also have to make that the consequences of of the breakup need to be kind, or I mean, it doesn't have to be mean, but don't shoot yourself in the foot and not get what you want or desire or need because you're trying to be conscious. Hire the right people, like the authorities, hire the lawyers, hire the accountants, hire whoever you need to make sure that it's a fair separation. There is no reason. It's not because you're having a conscious breakup that you need to go an alternative route. There are laws, especially when there is property or children. There are laws. Make sure that you are within the bounds of the laws. And if you are not willing to look at that, one of you is going to lose. And I have a client who, because she went the alternative way when it happened, years later, her ex-husband went back at her because she was a famous person. So he went back to her and got even more money because the first part of what they did was considered not legal because they did an agreement and all of that. So make sure you have somebody who knows the law. Make sure that it's solid, that nobody can come in the future and change what has been said by the court. It is a court, especially when it's that kind of breakup. Of course, in business, this is so important in business. It's not because you had a good business relationship with the person that you cannot have your own lawyer and they cannot have their own lawyer. Same thing. There's still emotions, there's still stories and perspectives and point of views, and you need somebody who's outside of those stories who can actually negotiate what's fair for both parties. So, and what's legal. So just separate the two, please.
Yeah, yeah, I love that you mentioned that because it's so true. I know people who have been screwed because they were like, "Oh, well, I know that it's important for us to be kind to each other," and they didn't stand for what they actually needed to create a greater future. They
Yeah,
walked away with like $200,000 while the other person made like that much money per year. And it's
yeah,
like, come on.
yeah,
Like, and then there are other scenarios in which I know of that people were sitting with lawyers for hours fighting over a vase. And finally the lawyer plops down $100. He's like, one of you just take the 100 and go buy a vase. Right? Where it's like,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think, when emotions are involved, it's important to have somebody who is not emotionally involved and can just bring some perspective to the situation. And that's all that, for me, that's what a lawyer does, is this is somebody who's not invested emotionally, who can just be like, hey, this is what's fair, this is what's right. And it's very helpful, you know it is really, really helpful. So do it. um Even like medically. So what I did not realize is that once you start creating a family or relationship, medical decisions can be given to the other person, whether for you or for your children. And as you can probably guess, I'm quite an alternative person when it comes to health. So I don't necessarily go the usual route, but my ex-husband did. And when it came to our children, I had to make sure that my voice was heard as well, because he was, he had the doctors and all that. And recently he did something that is not in agreement with what the law says in regards to our children. So I called the doctor and I basically went and said, you just did something illegal. And I explained to him what he did. Now he did not know, he did not realize he was doing something illegal. So I explained it, we fixed it, it's all good. But it's knowing the law, knowing the information. I don't have to fight with anybody. I'm just like, hey, this is the law, can do that. You know what I mean? Like, there's no you save so much time when you know the facts.
I think that this brings an important distinction. Being conscious doesn't necessarily mean being nice, right?
Yeah,
Being conscious.
totally.
It doesn't mean, I remember one woman asking me about non-judgment, and I said, well, if someone's standing on your toe, you can an allowance meaning non-judgment. I said, if someone's standing on your toe, allowance doesn't mean you have to keep letting them stand on your toe. It
Yeah.
just means you say, oh, hey, you're standing on my toe, would you please move? That doesn't work for me,
Yeah.
versus, hey, you're a jerk, get off my toe. That's, like, we don't need to involve drama. It's just
No, we
the
don't.
presence and the awareness to handle and show up and respond to what's showing up. And maybe
Yeah.
that's where we can go next, because responding is so different from reacting. And
Yes.
reaction is something that really often happens in breakups. So we're going to break. We'll be back in just a few. Thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. And you can always reach out at www.meetkathywilliams.com. Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is your host, Kathy Williams, and I'm having a conversation with Sophie Michele today. We're talking about conscious breakup. And before we get back to the show, I want to share something with you that I got in the mail yesterday that is so super cute. It's so fun, and it will be such a fun Valentine's Day present too. This thing is called Rose Pops, and it's a little heart-shaped box, and inside there are actually real preserved roses that smell amazing. So I got
Oh.
this and I was like, oh, but wait, there's more. Like, inside the box, there's a little note for me. Super sweet. And then it's got a little pin with my initials on it. And so I was so blown away, because what a cute little Valentine's Day gift
Aw.
that would be for someone. And the roses, like, apparently they never die. So they're going to look as red and brilliant as fresh ones for many years. Oh, I didn't even see the box has my name on it. Woo!
I need to look
So
that up.
it's rosepops.com. So if you're looking for a unique gift, or a gift for the person who seems to have everything, this is a great one. Rosepops.com.
Nice. Ooh, I like
Yeah,
that.
they smell amazing. So I'm like, sniff, sniff, sniff. Uh, and also, I just want to invite everyone, if you haven't already, hop on over to meetkathywilliams.com. There is a free gift for you there, a Create Your Life exercise that a lot of people like to listen to in the morning to remind themselves of the relaxation and the presence that's available. And you also get 20% off in the shop. There are some new meditations coming in the shop, which are super fun. And you just use the code SM radio, like Sexy Mom Radio. Oh, so yes, I know that in this conversation, you were saying something, Sophie, before we moved on to, like, reaction versus response, and you were like, I forgot what it is, and it looks like you remembered.
I did. I did. So,
Yay!
um, so I have to say that I did not have the words for this until recently. But what I realized is, in any loss, whether it's a relationship or, somebody who is passing, and unfortunately many of us are dealing with that right now, or maybe it's a lifestyle, maybe it's any kind of loss. What I realize is that it changes our identity and who we knew ourselves to be. And it is very important that we spend some time looking at, what did we lose? How did it change our identity? And then go back and be like, okay, who we are, whether we have this person, this relationship, this business or not, who are we? And we focus on really being with that identity, that what I call that essence of who we are. And once we focus on that, what I find is people can be mean, they can be unfair. I stay so calm, I stay so confident that everything is going to be okay because I know who I truly am. And not in the sense of I'm a mom or a business owner, but more like as a being, who am I? And then you can hit me with the biggest shit, I'll be totally fine. And I find that when you're going through something emotional like a breakup, it is so important to spend some time on who do you know yourself to be.
This is brilliant. I love that you brought this in. Yeah. Um, you know, many listeners will be familiar with this saying, particularly from the shows like um The Mirror is Your Friend show, or some of the more recent shows as well. I like to say you are not that which comes and goes, right? So um you are not the job you have, right? You are not even the role in the job you have. That is not who you are. That's not your essence, right? You're so much bigger than that.
Mhm.
And so if you can remind yourself, I'm not anything that comes and goes, right? And um that's where something like, it doesn't have to be formal style of meditation, but some practice you have that
Yeah,
reminds you of that and keeps you
yeah,
coming back to that. For me, that's been such a rock in all of this, because especially if you've been the type of person who sees someone else as your rock, if that person dies or drops out of your life, right, like then you're
yeah.
floating. uh, so to have some kind of practice that brings you back to what Sophie was referring to as your essence is so powerful and such a useful thing. And again, that might not be meditation for you. It might be, turning on music and dancing your own special way and just moving. Yeah. Or
That
what? Yeah.
Well,
Go
no,
ahead.
it's because I don't like meditation, but I started doing that. So I just put a pop song. So I try to find like a happy pop song, and I put it on and I dance because I was not moving enough. So I'm like, okay, at least I'll get my dance in the morning. Oh my gosh, it changes everything. Who I'm being in the day. I'm just so much clearer just because that's who I am. I'm a silly dancer. And so if I go and do my silly dance right there in the morning, I'm set for the day. And
Yeah.
you can hit me with anything. It will be fine. It will be totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So those practices that connect you, like the dance or like painting or whatever it is,
Yeah.
singing in the shower, you know, um, keep doing those and anchoring those in and reminding yourself on your calendar to create space for those, because they're
Yeah.
they're so important. And one of the things that often we do as well is when someone's in our life, whether that's our business partner or our lover or whatever, oftentimes we give that person a lot of roles. A lot of, maybe they take out the trash and they're our person we talk to when we're frustrated, and they're, our person who finds us a good mechanic or repairs the toilet or whatever they do. And suddenly, again, that person is absent. And so you're like, oh no, who's going to repair my toilet? Who's going to take
Hmm.
out the trash? Like,
Yeah.
and
No.
and some of those roles, of course, you'll probably step into. And some of those roles are people you're like, okay, who knows a good handyman?
Yeah.
Who knows, right? Who else would go to the movies with me?
Yeah.
start to allow friends and other people to come in and sort of like uh beef up your garden.
Yeah.
Like add to your
Absolutely.
garden so that you're not so devastated by the lack of, oh no, this person who used to do all these things in my life, I don't have any of that going on anymore.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, it was really funny. Yesterday, my ex-husband came to pick up something that one of my daughters forgot at a house. And he went, so the girls are with him right now. And so I'm hearing a noise outside, and I'm like, what's going on? So I'm looking, he was putting my trash cans back from the street into their spot next to my house. And I was like, did you just stick the trash can in? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. Like, I didn't ask him that. He just did it on his own. And it just to show you, like, we have such a good relationship that, he'll do for me what he would do for himself. But that also, I did not expect that. And I'm like, I don't have a problem taking my trash cans in, but it's an added bonus to really being that person, that, like, that essence of you, no matter what, it really adds on. It really does.
So I have a question for you about how you
Yeah.
achieved that sort of connection. But first I want to go to a word that you mentioned just a moment ago, and that is expectations.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that that really stands out to me, that I heard Kyle Cease say,
Hmm.
and for those of you who don't know, Kyle Cease is a comedian, but he's also very into personal development, um, in such a way that it's about waking up. And he said, no one can break your heart. They can only break your expectations.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
that ah, that those two sentences just kind of like opened up so much for me, because the truth of that is vast.
Yeah.
And so, in the breakup, a lot of us think, oh, that person, they broke my heart, or they ruined my life, or they, all these different things. And no one can do that. No
Nope.
one.
No one. I mean, the expectation part is great, and I would definitely look at that. But it's also like, what did that make it mean that they didn't do this, or they didn't fulfill this, or they acted like that? What did that make that mean? Because that's where it hurts. It hurts because suddenly, so I'm trying to think of something. I remember when I was dating this guy a few years ago, and we had talked about spending New Year's Eve together, and then at the last minute, like maybe 5 or 6 hours before New Year's Eve, he tells me that he's not coming, and we're not going to spend New Year's Eve together. And I went into such a distraught emotion, and I was like, wait a minute, what did I decide that that meant he did not love me, or he didn't care for me, or I was not important to him because he just couldn't come to the New Year's Eve? And then the next year, the person I was seeing was working that night, but I didn't make it mean anything. So it's like, wait a second, that's the same fact, but in one instance I made it mean this, in the other instance I didn't, right? I mean, I definitely had done a lot of work, but it's just what we're making mean. Don't let people take your power away. It's not about them, it's how you're looking at it, how you're seeing it. So yeah, expectation is a great word. I would also say the meanings, whatever meaning you've given to it,
Yeah.
put that, like, look at that.
Yeah, yeah, it's so funny because I remember having a conversation with another facilitator, and all of a sudden I go, the meaning is mean. Like whatever meaning I had put on something was actually mean. It was causing pain for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to give credit where credit is due. So there's one organization that I took a lot of classes from a long time ago, and it's called Landmark Education. And
Mhm.
I have to thank Landmark because there's one thing that they've taught me that I keep repeating to myself all the time, and that it doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't mean anything that it doesn't mean anything.
Uh-huh.
And so when I'm high in my emotions, I'm like, okay, it doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't. I repeat that, and I'm like, it gives me some perspective a lot of times, because they say that we are meaning making machines. So we spend a whole day giving something a meaning. Okay,
Yeah.
I I have I am back in the dating pool, and I've been doing virtual dates. So I'm talking to this wonderful man, and I have to say I'm not really attracted yet, right? So I'm like, and at first I was like, oh, it's because I haven't met them in person. And I'm like, no, I actually know when I'm attracted to somebody right away. So what I realize is that it's not because I'm not attracted to them that they're not wonderful people who actually would be an addition to my life. So as long as I let them know where I see this going, so I don't set an expectation of us being romantic, but I tell them, hey, you're such an awesome person. I'd love to get to know you better, but as a friend, then we're good. And that's the basis of a healthy relationship, to really be like, hey, just to let you know, this is where I see us going, right? But if I say, well, I'm going to see him, that's, if it becomes blurry, I would say you're doing yourself and them a big disservice. So just be clear.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much here. There's the meaning you just talked about. And as the Course in Miracles says, like I think it's lesson 2 in the Course in Miracles. I give meaning to everything that I see
Yeah.
here, right? It doesn't have that, but I'm the one giving it that. Even
Yeah.
the emotions I'm experiencing, I'm giving the sensations meaning.
Yeah.
And what if I could just let go of that and see, what shows up?
I have a different perspective on that. One, I easily have crushes. So when I was younger, I had crushes on a lot of people. And one day I was complaining to a colleague of mine that my crush was not responding, and I was sad and upset. And she looked at me and she said, "You are so lucky." I'm like, "What? Why am I lucky?" She said, because you feel things so deeply, and you can create relationships with so many people because you feel things so deeply. She said, I can't do that. I don't feel like you feel. And I was like, what do you mean you can't? Like, it was shocking to me, right? But I don't know if it's because she was protecting herself or because she was not giving herself permission to feel. But there are some people who don't necessarily feel those emotions. So if you do, just know you're lucky. You're lucky to feel sadness, anger, hurt, pain, all of that. This is actually a gift. It is not a problem. It is a gift. So if you can just remember that, you'll be like, oh, cool. I'm feeling sad right now. I think it's a fun way to look at it.
I like that. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Thanks so much for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life on IOM.FM or iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you like to listen to. iHeartRadio. Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, your host, and I'm talking with Sophie Michele today about conscious breakup. Sophie was just saying, Kathy, tell everyone to subscribe to your YouTube channel. Sophie also has a
Yes.
presence on YouTube, which will what is that? What's your
Oh,
YouTube channel?
it's Sophie Michele Mihalko, Mihalko. And I actually would love for your subscribers to go check it out. I just made a video called The Secret to Success. And it's a one tool that I use, especially in the beginning of the year when we do goal setting, to really set myself up to succeed in the year. And so I really would love for you guys to check it out. And there's a little gift if you watch it to the end. There's a little gift at the end. So go check it out.
Oh, that sounds cool. All right. And my YouTube channel is Kathy Williams Public Figure. And I have a lot of the shows and a lot of additional tools like little shorties that I mention on the show so that you have tools that support you in coming back to the present moment and coming back to the essence of who you really are, because right here, right now, that abundance that everyone seeks is available
Yeah.
if we tap into the present and the abundance of that's available right now. But so
Yeah.
often we're in the drama and the chaos of what's going on between our ears, or what's gets sucked into other people's drama and chaos, and that can be then we are no longer tapped into the abundance of the present moment. We are usually connecting and tapping into the I need something that's not present, and that sense of lack. So, um, and
Yeah.
that often happens in regard to breakup too, right? Oh, now I need something that's not present because this person left me or I left them.
Yeah. I I as you were talking, I was reminded that there's one. And so first of all, this year, everything for me is about reaching for the better feeling. So really going toward expansion, going toward creation. And yes, it's important to acknowledge what is, but even as you're dealing with anger, sadness, hurt, all of that, you can still go to the higher vibration. And one of the greatest things, and I know you all heard it, I'm only going to be repeating it, but it's better that I repeat it than not. It's gratitude. And if you can find gratitude for the person that you're breaking up from, I'm telling you, that's like a magic wand. It's going to be so, it's going to shift everything. If you can find true gratitude, don't be like, I'm going to be grateful and not be grateful. Like, it can be being grateful to make you stronger. It can be being grateful to figure out what's a what's oh, I don't even know, like a selfish person is, but just look for that gratitude, and oh, you'll be on your way up. I'm telling you.
And thank you for bringing that in. And that's true for yourself as well, right?
Yes.
Gratitude for
Yes.
yourself. Even if it's
Yes.
just like, wow, I'm strong enough to go through this. I'm grateful for, as Sophie mentioned earlier, for being sensitive enough to experience what I'm experiencing. I remember a woman I know said, my boyfriend said I'm too sensitive, and what she said back to him was so interesting. I was like, oh wow. She goes, no, you've just been desensitized.
Yes, that is so
And it was
true.
like,
So true.
boom, she's allowing herself to experience and feel what she feels. and
Yeah.
and the gratitude for that can be huge too. Like, I'm grateful I have the ability to cry right now. Like,
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's it's probably that choice that you make. So like, let's say you're really upset, you're really sad, you're really angry, all of that, but then in that moment you just remember to be grateful, and you actually do it, and do the work to find something to be grateful for. That that little thing, it's kind of like It's kind of like fuel, and it will boost every part of your life. It will make the negotiations or whatever you're dealing with smoother. It will shine just a little shift. So don't, just do it. Do it,
I
do it,
have a
do it.
great example of that. I have such a great example of that. Hawaii is one of these states that doesn't really do alimony. And I was like, meh, that's not cool. If you look at the numbers, da da da. And then my friend goes, and then I'm like, and I have assets to divide, right? I do have assets to
Yeah.
divide. And I was having a conversation with someone, super brief conversation, but she goes, oh wow, like you have to figure out how to divide this stuff. When I got divorced, I had nothing. We didn't have stuff to divide. And then I look at my life, I'm like, wow, I have so much to divide.
Yes, 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 yes.
And this whole
Absolutely.
thing about alimony, because I was like, alimony, not cool. If I lived any of the states I lived previously, I would have gotten that, and blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, my perspective shifted to, oh wow, I have so
Yeah.
much. I'm gonna have a house that I own. I'm gonna be, fine. But it's like just that shift
Yeah.
of looking
It's
at this thing
so,
that's super annoying and to like, oh wow. No, reality is that there is so much abundance, and so
there
like
is.
get over yourself.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. And that was true for you. You did not make that up. It was something you could truly be grateful for. So that makes a difference. So don't make it up. Don't put a band-aid on, don't like put a smiley face on a wound. Go actually look for something that is true for you. Don't make it up. Not in
Right.
gratitude. That doesn't work. And it could be that you're grateful that you have the internet so you can whine and complain about your ex-husband to your family. Okay. So whatever it is, there is something to be grateful for. Um, yesterday when with all the events, oh my gosh, I it was difficult to find something to be grateful for, but I followed this journalist on TikTok who was giving us like every 30 minutes, he was giving us an update. And I was so grateful. I felt like I was in the middle of it. So I felt like I had a real good understanding of what was happening. Yeah, go ahead. It's all good.
So what Sophie's referring to is the stuff in Congress where people were just
Yeah,
creating havoc and drama, because people might be listening to this 3 years from now.
that's
so
true. That's true. I forget.
so
So yeah.
so there
So
was just
anyway,
like
finding gratitude
a
even for the person who's just giving you the information, that's enough, That's just
Right.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I was looking at that stuff yesterday, and I saw some disturbing pictures, and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm really glad I did not have the upbringing that that person had,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
no one is born as a little soft, innocent baby, you know, with hate in their heart, right? That
Yeah.
is a learned thing. So I'm really grateful that I don't have the history and the parents and the background that that person had to endure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was mind-blowing to me. And this is something to remember about breakups. I think we really need to remember that when you start sharing something on social media, there is a lot of people who now going to have access to that information. Whether you take it down or not, it doesn't matter. From the moment that you put it on a public server, it's out. So just remember that, because I have the expression, do not bleed on social media. Do not complain about your ex or soon to be ex. Do not say any negative thing about anybody on social media, because it's going to come back to haunt you. So that's just a little parenthesis, but it's that's something you can be grateful for. You can be grateful that now with all the regular people have access to the information, and they're putting it out there, and now we actually may be able to see what's happening. And those people who have invaded the Capitol yesterday, maybe in a few months or a few years from now, they may look back and be like, wow, that was really silly or insane or crazy, right? So
Yeah.
there
Yeah,
is something.
always. I want to note that just because we're not going to vent on social media doesn't mean don't vent, right? I think it's
Right.
really
Yes.
important when that's like present for you. It's really important to get it out. Now, choosing the people to vent to is super important because people will take sides in a relationship, and they will, your partner, your former partner will hear things if you
Yeah,
don't
for
choose
sure.
consciously, okay, if I vent to this person, what will it create? And I love that question. What will it create? Because sometimes if you vent to this particular friend, it will create drama. Whereas if you chose a
Yeah.
different person, there, that won't create drama. And so you have to check in with yourself, like, will it actually create something that I want to, experience?
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
get it,
Yeah. Yeah.
better to choose someone else.
So I do like verbal process. I verbal process a lot of things, but I do it by myself in my room, in my own space, so nobody can hear it. And then what I do is I tell, if I still need to talk to somebody, I'll share my perspective. So this is how I'm feeling about this. This is how I'm looking at this, so they can help me shift that, right?
Yeah.
Because if you
Yeah.
share about the other person, then you still, whoever it is, you still have a chance that that person you're talking to may go and talk to that other person. So always when you're venting, make sure that you're actually speaking from your perspective. Oh, do we got to go?
Not yet. I'm
Not
on
yet.
the radio. All right, sure. So yeah, it's really important to just be able to choose people to connect with who are going to uplift you and add to your life in the absence of this person that you've loved and that used
Yes.
to on some level.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I'm really grateful for you in my life, Sophie. Thanks for
Oh,
the conversation.
yay. I'm grateful for
And
you, Kathy.
where can people find you?
Really on YouTube. Go check out my YouTube channel. Right now, that's the number one thing. Where to find Sophie? Go to YouTube.
Perfect. And I'm at meetkathywilliams.com. Kathy with a K, Williams with an S. Come by and pick up your energetic exercise and check out the classes I have coming up. One is about choosing the next best feeling. So it's going to change your life.
Yay!
Learning to do
Awesome.
that. So upcoming classes at meetkathywilliams.com. Thanks so much, everybody.
Perfect.
And if you
Thank you,
can't
everyone.
wait, then find us on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, iHeartRadio. All right. Thank you so much, Christopher. Sorry for that
Bye.
little challenge in the beginning. Where's my phone? Where's my phone? Good thing it was playing Ganesha mantras because I finally found it on a super low volume. All right. Have a good evening. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Kathy.
Hey,
Hey,
Louie.
Louie.